Welcome to Our Girl Relationships. We talk about the problems people face in their day to day lives. Let's start with the video. I dated my husband for 14 months before we decided to get married. I'm in my 40s, and by no way do I consider myself old, but I'm also not young enough to stall forever on life decisions. So when my husband proposed to me just after a little over a year of being together, I knew there was no time to waste and said yes. If I had known the kind of guy he'd turn out to be, I would have ran for the mountains the first time I met him. We haven't even been married for half a year, and already things have gone south. I noticed in the last few months that he acts suspicious around me and always tries to shut down his computer or phone whenever I enter a room. When I asked him about it, he said that it's not me and that he just has a habit of shielding his work from his coworkers. Of course, the words, "it's not you," were an instant red flag, but he even opened up his laptop just to assure me and let me and I finally convinced myself that I'm just being paranoid since we're married now. But a few weeks ago, I received a call from his ex wife. I didn't know it was her on the call, and when she started telling me to keep a hold on my husband, I almost called her the B word and told her to stop yapping lies. But I managed to calm myself down from being offended and asked her who she is and why she's talking about my husband like that. She told me that she's his ex wife, and she got my number from one of my husband's friends who she's still in contact with. But I was more concerned about the part where she said that my husband keeps calling her, even though she has made it crystal clear to him that anything they had ended up when they got divorced and she doesn't want him in her life. He was very aggressive and a possessive man, and no amount of love could have made her look past how suffocated he made her feel at times. So she asked for divorce from him, and after almost 2 years, he's contacting her again and trying to get back in her life. She said that if I care about my married life, I should keep him in check. Of course, I didn't believe her right away because my husband had told me in the past how his ex wife was a mad woman who left him because he refused to let her mooch off of him financially. She was suggesting that she become a stay at home wife, and when he said no, she left him. But now I was confused because this woman didn't try to ask me to break up with my husband or even implied that he cheated on me to make me go away. She just asked me to keep him from contacting her, which no one should feel the need to lie about. So I called my husband and told him about the phone call. I asked him what was going on, and he told me that she has been trying to mess up with my head. He said he hasn't talked to her in the last 2 years and has no plans of ever having her in his life. He said that she must be jealous because he has moved on and is just trying to sabotage his relationship. I was still not completely sure about the whole thing, but I decided to trust my husband over a woman I've never met and just keep my guard up in case she really is telling the truth. The next few weeks after that phone call were peaceful, and I was starting to lower my guard around my husband when today his ex wife showed up at my house. I didn't know what to do or say in that situation because she wasn't just some stranger who showed up at my door. She was my husband's ex wife, and she looked traumatized. She was shaking with fear, and it was clear from her puffy eyes that she had cried a lot in the last few hours. So instead of turning her away, I asked her to sit on the porch. I wasn't going to invite any crazy person in just because they looked like they were in trouble. She gladly sat there and took the bottle of water I offered her. She told me that she has been completely wrong about my husband. I asked her what she meant and if my husband is the one responsible for her current situation, and she nodded in reply. She continued to tell me about how my husband didn't stop contacting her, even when she told him over and over again that she's not interested in reconnecting with him. She showed me her caller history, and there was no way for me to not recognize my husband's number. She also said that she has noticed someone stalking her for the past week and asked help from a friend to identify the stalker. Today, she learned not only that my husband is her stalker, but that he had fitted a hidden camera in her house. She only found out because she asked her friend to stay with her until she pressed charges against my husband. But then her friend discovered the camera in her bedroom window and outside the front gate. She said that she doesn't know what videos he has of her, but she's afraid that he might threaten her because she had a habit of walking around in her house naked. That's when I remembered the way he kept sneaking around me with his laptop and always shut it down whenever I entered a room. I told her that I had an inclination about where the recording feed is and that she shouldn't worry about any of it. I called 911 for her and told her to give a clear statement and press charges against my husband. I also told her to go back to her house after making a report and pretend like she doesn't know about the cameras while I'll try to steal his computer from him. My husband is going to be at home in an hour, and I am set on not hearing his side of the story. I don't know if it's a gut feeling or what, but I believe the words of his ex-wife. Does that make me an a-hole? I know it's been a while since I came here to give you guys an update, but honestly, so many things have happened that it was really to process it all. My husband's ex pressed charges for invasion of privacy, illegal recording, and stalking against my husband, and submitted a few pictures of my husband walking around her neighborhood as proof that he was following her. She also submitted the recording devices as proof, but they were both damaged. She told the cops that it was her friend who took down the cameras after they found out about it, and just to be completely safe, she broke them. The first time I saw her in a disheveled state, crying and shivering with fear, I didn't question what she said. I was also having doubts of my own against my husband, so I instantly believed the story she fed me without noticing the dozen plot holes in it. But once my husband was arrested, he firmly denied all the charges and got a bailout. He asked me how I could even believe her over him. I was a mess and had no idea who to even trust at this point. Also, the laptop I stole from him didn't have any recordings from any CCTV. And thankfully, I didn't pass along the laptop to his ex-wife because it might have given her an opportunity to plant evidence in it. The cops are conducting their own investigation to determine who's lying. My husband isn't talking to me at all now, and I still can't trust either of them fully. I was an a-hole for even considering for a second that he is actually a batshit crazy person who would follow his ex around when I spent a whole year dating him. My husband pressed charges against his ex-wife for slander and is currently fighting in court against her. Turns out his ex-wife really did lie. The pictures she showed as proof were all photoshopped, and it was clear that my husband was only in the area because he was actually visiting a friend of his that recently moved there. Thankfully, his friend gave a statement for him, and the cops had to look up CCTVs to determine who was actually lying. That alone threw her whole story out the window. She was also charged with obstruction of justice and for filing a false report. As for me, my relationship with my husband has been under a lot of strain. I have begged him to forgive me because it was ultimately my fault that I didn't trust him. But he said that he needs time to figure it all out. I just hope that by the time the lawsuit wraps up, he'll be calm enough to let me have another chance. The judge passed a final sentence about a week ago, and my husband's ex-wife was fined $50,000 for slander, obstruction of justice, filing a false report, and fabricating evidence. She's also slated to spend 6 years, 4 years in prison and 13 months of community service. I don't know why people would go to such lengths to do something so stupid. All this only ended up destroying her own life, and all this for what exactly? If I had to take a guess, I'd say maybe she really was jealous about my husband moving on with his life and thought that this will ruin our marriage. Well, I don't know about breaking it completely, but it sure as heck ruined our lives a little. My husband still refuses to talk to me without sounding condescending or without contempt in his voice. Although winning the case has put him in a better mood, I can only hope that in the future it'll turn out to be okay and I will not have to go through a divorce. Of course, I'll do everything in my power to make up for what I did, but there's no saying how he'll take everything. And I can just hope he understands my situation too. YTA, you shouldn't have trusted an ex wife over your own husband. He will do a lot better with you out of his life. You dated him for almost a year and still think that his habits are suspicious? Well, then you really should have waited a little more. Age is just an excuse, and I refuse to cut you some slack because you rushed into things and now your marriage is falling apart. NTA, I mean, if I was in your place, I would have reacted the same way. But maybe it's just us. Social media and Reddit have made me believe that anything is possible in this world, so I don't trust anyone. You did what you thought was right with the facts you were presented with and realized your mistake in the end, so you're not the a hole. My mom, 45, female, has liked to dress in more popular Gen Z type fashion since she divorced my dad a few years back. She steals my clothes, we are the same size, to go on dates with men, and I feel so weird putting them on after she returns them, knowing what's been done in them. Sometimes she wears my clothes even without my permission because I won't be home to stop her. I'm now in college. In my school, there is a formal coming up, and I'm wearing my homecoming dress from senior year of high school. It is absolutely stunning. My mom is volunteering at our city's Pride Parade and wants to wear my dress to the gala event they will hold. I want to say no because of the history of what she does in my clothes, the way she tells me she looks better, etc. But at the same time, she did pay 20% for it when I got it last year. My dad paid the other 80% per their agreement. I feel guilty telling her no. Would I be the AH for declining her request to wear it? Some stuff I feel I should add. The guys she has hookups with are not strangers. She doesn't do one night stands. These are men I know who spend time in the house with my mom, sister, and I. My mom sees these like 3 or 4 guys in rotation, and I couldn't care less. It's the wearing my clothes that's off. They've seen me in the very clothes that she has worn to seduce them before. LOL. I no longer live with her. I live on campus at my college. I'm 18. This is my second month away. My college is local. I did not take all my belongings, clothes from my dad and mom's house. People who have lived on college campus can understand how little space we have. Ha ha. When I say Gen Z type clothes, I meant more so young people clothes. Pleated skirts, high socks, space buns, etc. I don't say anything to her. Just to me, it is sometimes off putting seeing my mom dressed like she's in her 20s. I do not tell her how to dress, you all. Sharing clothes with her was cool with me until it wasn't. Her wearing my stuff out to dinner or the store is fine, IDC. But it's progress past that faster than I could even render, LOL. Also, we do go shopping together, guys. Super important, I should have noted. She's been doing this since before I went to college, y'all. It's been since I was 16. At least that's when she first told me. Besides, my wardrobe has hardly changed since before I went to college. Also, thank you for the feedback. I'm nervous because this will for sure turn into an argument, but I'm going to tell her no. Wish me luck. NTA, she's crossing the line with doing anything nasty in your clothes and taking them without permission. And the comments at looking better just sound so demeaning. If I were in your shoes, I'd put my foot down with her. At least I was about to jump on and say how people shouldn't judge others based on their fashion choices. That if your mom wanted to wear younger clothing, then it's her choice, just like it's your choice to wear clothing of your style. However, reading on, yikes. Not only does your mother take your clothing without your permission, I'm assuming that she does the devil's tango, which ruins your clothing. She also body shames you by telling how she looks better. I get it. She's probably trying to relive her youth vicariously through you and your clothing. Sometimes I have difficulty distinguishing between a midlife crisis and a narcissist, but in her case, it's overlapping. You deserve to have one nice dress without worrying that your mom is going to ruin it prior to being able to wear it. Your mom isn't entitled to wear something she bought for you. If your dad paid for most of it, are you able to hold it in his home? If not, do you have a closet door with a doorknob? Maybe you can buy and install a lock on the door. Do you have a close friend you can trust to hold it in their closet and get ready with them? YWNBTA. I, 29 male, have been dating my girlfriend, 28, for 8 months. My girlfriend has many hobbies. Among them are crocheting and volunteering at a harm reduction center in our city. I won't pretend to know a lot about crochet because I've never done it, and she's the first person I know who does. Her work at the harm reduction center is simply badass, though. She's really good at it and has saved someone's life before from an overdose. For the past couple of weeks, she's been working a lot on blankets for the regulars in her center. I guess she does this every year when it starts to get cold out. She gets donations to buy yarn and then makes blankets for people in their favorite colors and in designs she thinks they would like. Blankets are her favorite things to make, so this is like a fun thing for her to get to do. I was blown away by how much money she spent on yarn this year, close to $500. And even though it's mostly not her money, I was just flabbergasted. My thing is that even though the stuff she makes is pretty, that's about all it is. I've never personally reached out for one of the blankets she's made for her apartment because when I look at them, they just have a lot of holes and gaps in them. I'm sure it's a design thing, but that type of blanket is basically for show. How warm can it be when, if you stretch it out at all, you're making gaps in it? So I brought this up to her because I feel like with that much money, you can buy better blankets for cheaper and then use the rest to buy stuff for the center. And that her blankets wouldn't do anything to keep someone warm on the streets. She said that this is something all of the regulars look forward to every year because they need the blankets. But they also love having something that is handmade special for them, and some of them haven't had that in ages after living on the streets for so long. I said that was fine, but a good feeling from the gift isn't enough to keep them warm. She said I was being obtuse, that they are warm, and that I always wear the scarf and hat she made me. Aren't those warm? But those are different because they're things you wrap tightly around yourself. She went back to her place upset and frustrated because she feels like I am intentionally not listening. But I feel like if you guys could see the stuff she's making, you'd agree with me that they are completely useless blankets. YTA for sure. I'm a crocheter and I know what you mean about the holes, but you should actually try a blanket out. They are very warm. You don't know what you're talking about. Your girlfriend sounds awesome. She should find someone else. Okay, I know exactly what kind of blankets you're talking about because when I was homeless, I owned 3 blankets, one of which was a large crocheted one. They have lots of loops and gaps and look kind of webby. That blanket was the second warmest one I owned, and on top of that, it was pretty. Do you know what it's like to have nothing? To live in a tent and wrap yourself up in anything you find from blankets to old coats to plastic Sheeting to stay warm? Do you know how cheap and ragged and awful your blankets get when you sleep on the ground every night? That crocheted blanket was pretty. It cleaned up easy in the creek and dried fast on the clothesline. It was always the blanket I put over all the others because when you wrap it up around a blanket burrito, it holds heat so well. Your girlfriend's blankets are pretty, warm, and personalized. That's the kind of thing I would have killed for when I was sleeping rough. I am 100% sure they get other blankets donated as well, but these blankets are special. They're the kind of thing that people in need get excited and wait all year for. Just because you're spoiled for choice in your life doesn't change how much handmade blankets like that mean to you when you have so little. Stop belittling the work your girlfriend does just because you can't be bothered to understand why it matters. YTA, have you never worn a knitted sweater? You admit outright that you've never even tried one of the blankets and you're ready to pass judgment? GTFO. Just admit that you're jealous and resent that she's spending time and money on things that aren't you and get over yourself.